Was the forecast for rain, but I called a number of local clergy people and asked them to try to intercede for us, and no rain. So who knows? Maybe they do have an access. Good morning, everyone. And there are so many remarkable things about Brooklyn Bridge Park: the views, the innovative public spaces, and the way we reconnected our city with the natural beauty of our harbor, and then the Wilentises. That's also part of the park. I guess you got to say that. Thank you for both of you. The park is also a shining example of our administration's work to bring new life and possibility to abandoned pieces of our industrial past, and that includes the tobacco warehouse here in Brooklyn Bridge Park. I don't know how long it was used. When did they stop putting tobacco in here? Does anybody know? Nobody? Late 1800s? That was before my time. This building is a relic of the Civil War era, when this stretch of waterfront was helping fuel the city's economy. The warehouse fell out of use and was abandoned for much of the last century. In recent years, it has been used as a temporary venue, as we all know, for festivals and other events, but it has so much potential as a permanent venue that our administration has worked very hard to make that happen. Last year, we reached an agreement that will allow us to preserve and develop the warehouse, and that also brought new parkland to Brooklyn Bridge Park. And last month, we were excited to announce that one of our city's great art organizations, the St. Anne's Warehouse, would develop the tobacco warehouse into a new cultural center and multi-use community space. And today, we're officially kicking off the construction of the new St. Anne's Warehouse Theater. A nice round of applause. Okay, then another round of applause for Marvel Architects, who have designed the theater. It'll include 18,000 square feet of performance space. Also, multi-use space for schools, artists, and community groups. An adjoining space that's part of the warehouse will be left roofless and become a public green area. And it will be a wonderful addition to New York's proud tradition of arts and culture in our public parks. It will also be the first permanent home for St. Anne's Warehouse, which does the kind of cutting-edge work that makes this city such an exciting place for the performing arts. The new theater at the Tobacco Warehouse is expected to open in the fall of 2015. We're in the fall of 2013, so I do my math, that's a couple of years, 700 odd days. The city is providing $10 million in funding for the $27 million redevelopment project, and we are providing another $6 million to develop the parkland that we acquired as part of the agreement that made the warehouse redevelopment possible. This is just, yes, give everyone around. Where'd it go? But this is just one of the exciting projects underway here in Brooklyn Bridge Park. Last month, we also announced that Midtown Equities will develop the Empire Stores, another Civil War era building that's here in the park that has been long out of use. And Empire Stores will include nearly 400,000 square feet of restaurant, retail, office, and event space. Midtown Equities is also in talks with the Brooklyn Historical Society to include new exhibition space at Empire Stores to celebrate the industrial history of the borough. Meanwhile, construction has already begun on Pier 1, where a joint venture between Toll Brothers and Starwood Capital will help bring a new hotel, new residence, a new restaurant and retail space, and a 17,000 square foot event space and fitness center. We'll also soon break ground on the John Street Street Section 2, along with Alloy Development, and together with the Tobacco Warehouse, these developments will create around 1,000 construction jobs and 2,000 permanent jobs. And revenue from these developments will go towards operation and maintenance of the park. Now, in just a few weeks, we'll also open Piers 3 and 4 upland sections, completing the greenway that runs from Pier 1 to Pier 6. Pier 2 is on track to open early next year and will include new sports fields and picnic areas. And like the other parts of the park, they're being constructed sustainably to withstand future storms and other severe weather events. And we'll also soon break ground on the Main Street and Pier 6 sections of the park as well. And all of these elements really are coming together to create what is really one of the most thrilling public parks anywhere on earth, and bringing incredible resources to our city. I came to New York City in 1966, and if you told me that we were going to be where we are now with all these parks, nobody would have believed that. Even 10 years ago, nobody would have believed that. Our administration is working to bring this land under city control back in work to bring this land under city control back in 2010, and that agreement was key to jump-starting the progress that we made. We've come a long ways, and I want to thank some of the people from our administration who have worked to make that possible, and that includes First Deputy Mayor Patty Harris. If I didn't say that, I would not be a tough ride back to City Hall. Deputy Mayor Bob Steele, who is chair of the Brooklyn Bridge Park. And, of course, the person in the administration that does all the work, Nanette Smith from our team at City Hall, who is really the driving force behind so many of the great things happening here in Brooklyn Bridge Park. And Linda Gibbs, our deputy mayor for our social services, who lives in a building looking out on Pier 6 on Brooklyn Bridge Park. That's the only reason we did all this, because Linda wanted something in her neighborhood. I also wanted to thank Kate Levin, of course, and Veronica White, two of our commissioners who really made an enormous difference. Our legislative director, Joe Garber, as well as Ken Adams from the Empire State Development, and we wouldn't have been able to bring St. Anne's to the Tobacco Warehouse without the hard work of Hank Gutman and the rest of the park board. State Senator Dan Squadron is with us, Susan Amron from the city's law department to broker the agreement that made all this development possible. And I also want to thank Andy Hammingson, Susan Feldman, Joseph Steinberg, and the rest of the St. Anne's team for working with us to overcome hurdles and bring a great future to Tobacco Warehouse. And needless to say, we owe a lot of thanks to a lot of things that happen in Brooklyn to Regina Meyer, president of the Brooklyn Bridge Park, as well as Nancy Webster, Nancy Bone, and the Brooklyn Bridge Park Conservancy Board, as well as Rose Harvey and Joshua Layard at State Parks and our partners in the National Park Service, and Midtown Equities and the Carey family for their support. Now we are going to hear from other people. We have said everything, but it has not been said by everybody yet. But you are in a unique opportunity. You're going to be able to sit here and hear it. First, there is somebody who literally wants to break up the city. It's hard to believe. We all want to build a city together. This guy really has, his dream is to break up the city. He thinks that Brooklyn should have stayed a separate city back then. Marty, probably not going to happen. I can only tell you it will certainly not happen during my watch, so we are safe for another 61 days. The great Brooklyn, as a matter of fact, this is the best borough president that Brooklyn has had in the last 12 years. Borough President Marty Markowitz.
All right, I could come back and say we may not be a separate city, but we'll have a mayor from Brooklyn, that's for sure. Anyway, thank you very, very much, Mayor, and certainly Susan Feldman. All I feel is Susan Feldman. As a member of my tribe, she wandered for 30 years, 35 years in the deserts of Brooklyn Heights and in Dumbo, and she has finally found a permanent home. Susan. Oh, Susan, you're everything I've known in my life, I have to tell you. Congratulations. And certainly to Executive Director Andy Hammingson, the entire St. Anne's Warehouse Board, and Chair Joe Steinberg. And by the way, so many of the folks here, Mayor, they are the movers and shakers, Brooklyn Heights, and in the whole borough and the whole city of New York. And that's true, by the way. For seeing the future of the American Avant-Garde Theater right here in historic Tobacco Warehouse. And of course, it took a woman to complete the Brooklyn Bridge, as we know, Emily Roebling, and it took a woman again to complete and keep on moving our Brooklyn Bridge Park, Regina Meyer, El Presidente, the best, the best. It's a long journey it's been for St. Anne's from the early days of St. Anne's Church in Brooklyn Heights to a new location in Dumbo, then another location in Dumbo. But wherever you went, your devoted fans followed. So I want to thank all of you once again, to Two Trees and David and Jed Walentis. You've contributed unbelievable to this borough, and I mean that very, very much. And always made sure that St. Anne's had a Dumbo roof over its head. And to Michael Bloomberg, our mayor, our New York City's arts patron in chief, Thank you very, very much. This is about our 400th groundbreaking this week, and we're going to fit them all in while the countdown clock is still on our side. But to Kate Levin and Veronica White and really everyone that you've already mentioned, they have been a pleasure. Nanette, Patty, they've been a pleasure to work with. I also want to recognize Stephen Levin, of course, Daniel Squadron, looking forward to this new art space in their own backyard, and of course the one and only Dominic Recchia, dear colleague of mine and really a cultural czar. We call him Mr. Coney Island, besides lots of other beautiful names. But Dom, thank you, and your chapter in public service is only chapter 1. Plenty more chapters to come. For decades to come, the St. Anne's audience will enjoy groundbreaking music and theater productions and award-winning artists in one of the most beautiful places on earth, right here on the banks of the East River. And I must tell you, Susan, we all know you never gave up. You've been tenacious, visionary, creative. You've been a relentless believer that Brooklyn and St. Anne's are a match made in heaven. You're absolutely right. And Brooklyn Bridge Park is the icing on the cake. People from across the world look at Brooklyn and they know, in the words of Esquire magazine, that Brooklyn is the coolest city on the planet, the artistic capital, the left bank of New York City and America. Right, Peter Ashkenazi? And St. Anne's Warehouse is absolutely part of what makes Brooklyn the place where everyone wants to be at St. Anne's. Not only it solidifies arts, it brings boatloads of visitors, including Manhattanites looking for a little culture. Now, I must tell you, Mayor, I was in Vienna 2 weeks ago, and there was a store right in one of the shopping areas in Vienna, and the mannequins in the window of that retail store, wool caps. One said London, one said Paris, and what do you think that third hat said? Brooklyn. My wife Jamie was here today, went into the store with me. They sold out all Brooklyn hats, and the Paris and London hats were piled high, and we had to buy the hat from the mannequin in the window. That goes to show you where Brooklyn is at in the world. And it's, believe me, we deserve every bit of it. Anyway, St. Anne's Warehouse is the cutting edge, the adventure, the thrill. Maybe it sounds like the Scream Zone at Coney Island, but from the all-female cast of their production of Julius Caesar to the performances of Brooklyn-born the late Lou Reed, St. Anne's is always a fear-defying adventure into music and theater. We are all along for the ride. It's a great thrill. Thank you. And I just got to tell you, Mayor, it's been a wonderful 12 years with you, I have to tell you. And I know that speaking for all of us, you've really shown attention to Brooklyn. I really mean that. And Brooklyn has flourished and prospered. All of us here, I know that we're all going to feel when we leave in a few weeks that we've done our job.
We've got to do a few more of these.
I know, we've done our job. Congratulations. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Marty. I neglected to mention Carl Kimball from EDC, who is here. He's done a great job after Seth Pinsky. What was Seth Pinsky? What did he do before? Nobody remembers him. It's been 6 weeks or something like that. Anyways, next council member, Steve Levins. Steve?
Thank you, Mayor.
If they didn't get it, it's okay.
Thank you all so much for being here today and for showing your dedication, not only to St. Anne's Warehouse, but also to the future of Brooklyn and the future of culture in New York City. And I want to start by thanking Mayor Bloomberg and your great team, First Deputy Mayor Patty Harris, Nanette Smith, who is here, your great Cultural Affairs Commissioner Kate Levin, and your entire team, Deputy Mayor Bob Steele, for your dedication to culture in New York City and for understanding what culture brings to our communities and what it means in terms of where we're going. Keeping the livelihood in New York, keeping creativity in New York for the long term. And St. Anne's Warehouse is absolutely a shining beacon of creativity and culture in New York City. And so first, I also want to acknowledge the team at St. Anne's Warehouse, Susan Feldman, Andy Haymanson, Marilyn Donini, and Joseph Steinberg, and the entire board. You have been so tenacious and so dedicated to keeping the programming here in this community. You've understood that this is part of the DNA of St. Anne's Warehouse. Being here in Dumbo, being in this community, bringing the culture here is absolutely essential to your mission, and you stuck with it, and you've been just amazing throughout the entire process, so I congratulate you and your entire team. I want to thank and acknowledge the important role of Speaker Christine Quinn in making sure that this happens. Speaker Quinn couldn't be here this morning, but she has been immensely dedicated to making sure that St. Anne's Warehouse has smooth sailing on into the future. And nobody at the City Council is more responsible for that, other than the Speaker, than our great Finance Chair, former Cultural Affairs Chair, and as Marty said, cultural czar here in New York, Dominic M. Recchia Jr. Dominic has been so passionate about making sure that the arts have the funding, they have the attention, and that they're kept front and center here in New York. And he is an absolutely passionate fighter. And so, Dominic, I want to acknowledge your great work. And somebody who does not get a lot of credit publicly, but who is done more for culture than anyone that I can think of at the City Council, in terms of making sure that the funding is there and making sure that they are taken care of. And he's the person that everybody calls to make sure that around budget time that the programs are getting funded and the projects are getting funded. And that's our Deputy Finance Director, Jeffrey Rodas, who's here. For many years, Jeff has been a champion. This is a wonderful day, and it's bringing together two absolute gems of New York City, St. Anne's Warehouse and Tobacco Warehouse. And it's going to be a beacon of adaptive reuse, of making sure that we are updating our historic structures for 21st century use. And I want to acknowledge Jonathan Marvel, who's the architect who's going to bring this vision to life. And Jonathan. And I want to acknowledge Regina Meyer, her entire team at Brooklyn Bridge Park, and the board that's here today as well. And I want to acknowledge them by name: Joanne Whitty, Peter Ashkenazi, Anita Contini, Kyle Kimball, Commissioner Veronica White, and especially Hank Gutman, because Hank, and David Offenson. Sorry, David, you're not on the line. But especially I want to acknowledge Hank Gutman, because Hank put a lot of time into making sure that this happens and making sure that it happens successfully. So Hank, congratulations. Congratulations to everybody here. And thank you, Mr. Mayor. You've done a wonderful job for culture in New York City, and this is just the latest example. Thank you.
Now, the backstory is the reason he's nice to me. I went to school with his father. That shows our age difference. State Senator Dan Squadron is with us. Dan.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And Mayor, as you said, everything has been said, but we haven't all said it. And in fact, I'd love your cue cards, because those thank yous are really the most important thing here. And I think you heard the same thing from Steve's very gracious remarks, and certainly from Mr. Brooklyn's remarks before that. And thank you for going between us, because the worst thing to do in Brooklyn is to speak immediately after Marty Markowitz, which is the only thing we will miss about him come January 1st. We'll be having to follow him at these great events, because he's been such a big part of this. But you look at an event like this, and you look at a project like Brooklyn Bridge Park, you look at a cultural organization like St. Anne's Warehouse, you look at the ability to bring those things together in a way that really does have just about the entire world on board and part of it. And the truth is, in this city, that's hard to do. And no one of us can do that on our own. In fact, those of us up here, we get to stand on the riser, but the truth is, those of you who aren't up here have done so much more to make this happen. And I want to really acknowledge all those people, all the staff at the city, certainly Mayor Bloomberg and Deputy Mayor Patty Harris, but also Nanette and Vicky and Regina and her team, David Lowen, the members of the board, as Steve said, especially Hank Gutman, who really put himself out on a limb here. And the truth is that the great work of St. Anne's Warehouse happens with Susan, but it also happens every day with the artists and the stagehands and everyone who make it happen. The great work of Brooklyn Bridge Park happens with the vision that this mayor has shown along the waterfront, but also with every person who comes to a community meeting and helps make sure that it's a vision that is also consistent with what they're experiencing in their neighborhoods. And so this is a day where we could just go on forever thanking everyone. I'm considering doing so. It would be real. You know, often in politics we thank people because we have to or because it's the polite thing to do. Every name that has been said today is someone who is deeply deserving of the extraordinary legacy and reality that we're going to see here in the Tobacco Warehouse and across Brooklyn Bridge Park. So to all of you, you really made today happen, and thank you very much.
I might point out Buzzy O'Keefe is here. Buzzy, nice to see you. Everybody knows. Regina Meyer, President of Brooklyn Bridge Park. Regina?
Thank you so much, Mayor Bloomberg. Today, and welcome to the Tobacco Warehouse in Brooklyn Bridge Park. Today marks a phenomenally significant milestone for the park. Our partnership with St. Anne's to adaptively reuse this space and create a beautiful performance space has been a dream for a very long time, and we're very, very happy to mark this milestone. This cultural amenity will add so much life and enrichment to our park visitors. The new community room that will also be a part of the project will add a lot of flexibility to the project and to our visitors and to the local residents and artists who want the extra space. The creation of a public garden right here in the space you can imagine just now is going to be such a beautiful amenity as well. The community has been such an important part of this process, and we would not be here without all of their input and support. None of this, of course, would be happening without the mayor's leadership. I would like to thank him and the entire team to get us to this day, and of course all of the local elected officials who are with us. 2013, as you heard from the mayor, has been an incredible year for the park, and there's so much on the horizon. We're just weeks away from opening up our upland connection between Pier 1 and Pier 6. So finally, everyone will understand the true breadth of the beautiful design connecting the entire waterfront from Old Fulton Street to Atlantic Avenue. We'll also open Pier 2, the park's second active recreation pier, early next year, welcoming so much more active recreation to the park. And as you also heard from the mayor, this winter we'll be breaking ground on new parkland at Main Street, just underneath the Manhattan Bridge behind you all. The development sites will be proceeding at Empire Stores, Pier 1 development, and at John Street. Brooklyn Bridge Park is dedicated to great programming, and it's our partners that inspire us every day. Of course, thank you so much to everybody at St. Anne's Warehouse, everybody at the Brooklyn Bridge Park Conservancy, the Children's Museum, and the Historical Society. That really is our inspiration for great programming, is those great partners. It's been such a joy to build this park. Building a park brings out the best in everyone, as you could see from this collection here today. So many thanks to the Michael Van Valkenburg and Associates team for their spectacular park design that is unparalleled in beauty and innovation. Thank you to my Brooklyn Bridge Park directors, all of them, and to the entire City Hall and city agency teams who have all worked with us so hard to get here. And finally, to the BBP staff and the construction team, every day making this park a better place. So thank you.
Regina, thank you. Joseph Steinberg, the board chair of St. Anne's Warehouse.
I moved to Brooklyn Heights 44 years ago, and remember one of the first things I read was in the Brooklyn Heights Press about how there was going to be a park here. Well, there is a park here, and it's amazing. There are so many heroes today that I hardly know where to begin. My mom always said to me that you can't thank people enough, so please bear with me. First, Suzanne Feldman, who had the vision a very long time ago to see the perfection of the Tobacco Warehouse as a permanent home for St. Anne's Warehouse. Second, David, Jane, and Jed Belenis, who offered us a free home for 11 years and believed in the possibility of the Tobacco Warehouse. But in addition to those heroes, there are public officials, our heroes, who understood the importance of performing art inside Brooklyn Bridge Park and stood by our dream when the goings got tough and never wavered in their support. Thank you, Mayor Bloomberg. Thank you to Dan Doctoroff, who got the Brooklyn thing a long time ago and before many of us. Also, Christine Quinn, Marty Markowitz, Dominic Recchio, Dan Squadron, Joan Millman, Steve Levin, and also, of course, Kate Levin, Nanette Smith, and Patty Harris. We would not be here without you. All of these believed in the tobacco warehouse as an important part of Brooklyn Bridge Park and were indefatigable in their support at has what become today a happy groundbreaking ceremony. I need to mention one last hero, Hank Gutman, longtime Brooklyn Heights resident and member of the board of Brooklyn Bridge Park Corporation, who cleared the way when we ran into a speed bump or two. And lastly, to Regina Meyer, who is building this beautiful park. As for the reconstruction itself, we have a great team, our architect, Jonathan Marvel, and construction guru, David Belt, and our contractor, Bob Goldberg, York Construction. We plan to be done in 18 months. The board of St. Anne's Warehouse has been generous and opened their wallets and their contacts. We've raised $8.5 million from those heroes, and the public officials here today have found a place in their budgets to support the project in the year ahead with $10 million. We thank them all and promise to build on time and on budget, and when we're done, this will be our new home in Brooklyn Bridge Park. Thank you very much.
Joseph, thank you. I think it's only fitting that we finish up the speaking program with the artistic director of St. Anne's Warehouse, Susan Feldman.
Thank you. Thanks. Needless to say, it's great to be here. It's a really wonderful morning gathered here on this spectacular waterfront with all of you. Thank you so much for coming and for sharing what to us is a miraculous moment. If we could have, we would have handed every single one of you a hammer with which to help us break up this concrete slab, level the uneven ground, and bring new life to this iconic structure. Because, and this is no exaggeration, as with making art, forging this new building on old walls that will stand here in perpetuity is the product first and foremost of human effort. The human effort of the people standing on this podium, sitting in this audience, and gathered around this place between the mighty Brooklyn and Manhattan bridges. All of you have played a huge part, had a personal hand in making a new cultural center and community gathering space on the Brooklyn waterfront a reality. While I can imagine the astonishing future life of this new cultural destination in Brooklyn, it's hard to imagine life without this administration. Many of you will be leaving, but I have to say, led by Mayor Bloomberg, Marty, Chris Quinn, Steve, Kate Levin, Patty Harris, Nanette Smith, Regina, Dan, Rose Harvey, and all your fantastic staffs, what I will miss most about this special combo of state and city administration is everything. The commitment, the skills, and the celebration of what people can accomplish working together, your encouragement of the word yes, and in our case, your refusal to give up or let us give up, are indicative of the greatness with which you have led this city time and again through unimaginable crises and recoveries. Being steeped in and obsessed with our current production of Julius Caesar, all female I might say, it leads me to ask Mark Antony's question, when comes such another? It's not easy to say thank you and goodbye. People live in constant denial and fear of both dependence and abandonment. So I would like to ask everyone to join me in recognizing unequivocally not only the promise of this great groundbreaking, but the committed leaders who have brought us to it. I also want to especially acknowledge Joe Steinberg, David Jane, and Jed Walentis, Adam Max, and the St. Anne's Warehouse Board for your profound generosity, your leadership, and your brilliance. I want to thank our hardworking St. Anne's staff led by Andy Hamingson, our new executive director, general manager Eric Wallen, production and marketing directors Owen Hughes and Emily Kent. You bring fantasies and dreams to life every day in and around the theater. Hank, everyone's been thanking you. I think you should come up here and take a bow. Hank Gutman.
Come on, Hank.
They have to know they've been hearing about you all day.
Come on, good looking.
This is the great negotiator who brought everyone back to the table and somehow got everyone to allow this to happen. I have to thank another fearless person, Samara Daly. Whose unbridled commitment and passion for this project maybe matches my own. I want to thank Jonathan Marvel and his team of architects, Lissa and Scott and Zach, Charcoal Blue, our theater designers, David Belt and your teams, their muses, their architects, their theater designers and project managers, and they have given us a magnificent and responsive design for the future. And not least of all, I have to recognize our artists, some of whom are actually with us from as far away as Poland. I want to thank Grzegorz Jarzyna, who directed the fantastic Macbeth that was in this very spot a couple of years ago. And I want to thank Phillida Lloyd and Kate Peckenham. Phil is the director of Julius Caesar, and Kate's the executive director of the Donmar Warehouse. Thank you for being here and for bringing us the remarkable all-female Donmar Warehouse Julius Caesar. And I want to thank the cast. They're all here, and you're going to hear them in just a few minutes. I just have to say you've been enrapturing audiences every night at 29 J Street. And I want to say to you all, if you haven't seen it, you really should. Because we're going to be there, and we're going to be continuing to work for the next 2 years until we come back here. So I just want to say thank you. Here you go.
Susan, thank you. When you talked about a quote from Mark Antony, I'm sure some of the press is going to probably call J-Lo to check it. Had to think about that a little bit. A couple things. Number one, while we've been sitting here, the carousel doors have opened. Does that mean we can go take a ride? And thank you for that, incidentally. Just, I don't know how many times we say that, but we can't say it too much. And in terms of, Susan, you're nice to say things about our administration, but I really do believe the best days for New York are yet to come, and whoever is the next mayor will have to build an administration in their own eyes of what they think is important. But, you know, you get the government that you want, and it's up to the public to go to its government, as you've come to our administration, and say this is what we want, and support them when times get tough, and help them get through the inevitable disappointments and crises and everything, and remember that the glass is always half full at least, and I think even more full than that in New York City. New York City has a wonderful hand to play, and I don't think that it's in any great danger. I'm going to live here for the rest of my life, and I will come for when 2015 to see performances here, and I would urge all of you to do that. Let me just summarize for our Spanish-speaking New Yorkers as soon as the helicopter passes. Estamos empezando construcción en el antiguo almacén de tabaco para el puente de Brooklyn para convertirlo en un nuevo teatro en espacio comunitario. Es solo uno de los proyectos que están transformando este parque en uno de los más visitados en nuestra ciudad. And with that, we are going to have a performance. And we're all going to go over there, stand there, and the performance is taking place right there.
For a muse of fire that would ascend the brightest heaven of invention.
A kingdom for a stage,
Princes to act,
and monarchs to behold the swelling scene.
Then should the warlike Harold, like himself, assume the part of Mars. and at his heels, unleashed in like hounds, should famine, sword, and fire crouch for employment.
But pardon, gentle Zor, flat unraised spirits that have dared on this unworthy scaffold to bring forth so great an object. Can this cockpit hold the vasty fields of France?
Or may we crown within this wooden O the helmets high that did affright the air at Agincourt?
Oh, pardon, let one crooked figure represent 1,000,000, and let us, mere ciphers in this great account, on your imaginary forces work.
Suppose within the girdle of these walls are now confined 2 mighty monarchies,
whose high upreared and abutting fronts the perilous narrow ocean parts asunder.
Piece out our imperfections with your thoughts. Into 1,000 parts divide one man.
Think when we talk of horses that you see them, printing their proud hooves in the receiving earth.
For 'tis your thoughts that now must deck our kings. Carry them here and there, jumping o'er times, turning the accomplishment of many years into an hourglass.
Which do supply, admit us, chorus to this history, prologue like, your humble patience pray, gently to hear,
Kindly to judge
our play.
It's heavy. We'll keep our day job.